Welcome to Loremen, a podcast about local legends and obscure curiosities from days of yore. I'm Alasdair Beckett-King.
And I'm James Shakeshaft.
And James, we've got a live episode in the bag.
Yeah.
Can you see it wriggling?
Yeah.
It's about a horrible little man.
Oh, yeah?
His name's Mr. Punch.
Oh, okay.
The less said about him, the better, frankly. And now here's a podcast on that subject.
Here's a 40-minute chat about him.
Why are we not in our own homes, James?
I don't know. I just woke up here. I'm scared.
James,
where am I?
You're really
what year is
sleep-deprived.
this? Who's the president?
You haven't had any sleep, have you?
No, I've had minimal sleep. I believe we're in London.
We are in London, yes. Tick. Why are we here, James?
Well, we're here as part of the Cheerful Earful Podcast Festival. As you can see from the writing on here, on our microphones, and the writing on here, on our cube.
Listeners will just have to listen to the writing on the microphones and the writing on what they can only imagine. They can only imagine what the cube might be.
Well, I think they've got a very good idea of what it is.
They know what shape it is.
Yes.
But they don't know what powers it has.
Oh, it's a glowing cube. There you go. There you go. There's literally nothing else to know. How's your water?
It's, James, right, this has obviously got off on the wrong foot. James said, shall I go and get some water? He went to go and get some water. It's half and half fizzy water and normal water.
It's the best.
What do you mean?
Frizzante.
I don't know what that means.
Well, Congas.
Is that Italian for terrible water?
No, it's for lovely. Congas is fizzy. I don't know what without gas is.
Just
aqua.
Yeah, water.
Senza, and
which means nice.
Half and half. Frizzante.
Frizzante?
It's neither Micklin nor Mucklin, as no Italian has ever said.
Funny that you should mention Italy, because that ties in very, very neatly with what I'm going to talk about today.
Does it?
Yes. I'm going to talk about a true British folk legend, but his roots are in the nation of Italy.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like I have to sort of start with a warning to the curious here, because I'm going to talk about Mr. Punch of Punch and Judy fame.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like, fun puppet show for kids, but also just the most appalling story you could possibly imagine. Like, there's no... I tried to come up with like a content warning, and the content warning itself needs a content warning. So, like, if you don't like anything... If anything is an issue for you, stop listening to this podcast.
Does it contain a lot of peril?
It's so much. It's not even mild. It's serious peril. Adult situations.
If it was like a sort of a chili rating of peril, with 3 being the most amount of chilies or peril.
Yep.
It's 3.
It's 4.
Oh.
There'd be 4 chilies. I'd have to go and get an extra chili and stick it on.
Oh, no.
That's how perilous we're talking.
Whoa. I guess, to be honest, I'm, as ever, not a fan of nominative determinism, but you can probably work it out from his name, right?
Mr. Punch.
Yeah, Mr. Punch.
Mr. Punch. Yeah, not like Punch, like he's your mate. Mr. Punch, like he's your neighbour.
And also...
your violent neighbour.
I don't miss.
So, James, you're English.
Yes.
You probably have some awareness of what a Punch and Judy show is. And listeners overseas might have some idea. They were popular in America for a time.
Really?
But it's mostly a British tradition. Would you like to describe for me what you think a Punch and Judy show is?
Okay. Are you in the room? You broadly know what Punch and Judy is? Broadly, it's still a thing. Because
a lot of people nodding in spite of the fact this is essentially an audio medium. There's like 400 people here, all nodding. Can you believe that? Weird that only 12 of them laughed at that, but okay.
All the rest have got both thumbs up. So, a Punch and Judy show. It tends to happen at the seaside, I'd say.
Tick.
It's a puppet show.
Correct.
Involving a little tent for some reason. Like the puppet show is like in its own little miniature theatre that moves around. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember when the BT man cometh.
I'm sorry?
When you know the boxes that have the phone lines in them on the street?
Yes.
And the BT man would cometh and he'd bring a little stripy tent with him.
James, where do you live that you remember when they installed telephone lines? I thought I was 400 years old. How have you experienced any of this?
It's called the countryside.
Okay, right.
We genuinely had to...
They're coming at him with pitchforks.
We had to fill out a form to get the internet. And unfortunately, we couldn't get that form because the form was online. But yeah, so that is like a little stripy tent that... Clearly a man is hiding inside. Yes. And he sticks his hands up and those hands are covered in puppets. I really forgot how to describe puppets.
Yeah, you've described glove puppets in the most disgusting way imaginable. His hands are covered in puppets. What you've neatly sidestepped the fact that the story of Mr. Punch is a story of extreme violence.
I'm not sure. I don't ever feel like I ever understood the story. I don't think I ever got to the end.
It's a very odd story. So I'm going to help you out a little bit. I'm going to give you Charles Hall Grandgents.
Oh, yes.
That's his name. Description, he was an American linguist, and he described Mr. Punch in 1928 thus. The play of Mr. Punch, a catalogue of crime, a series of sins, a world of wickedness. Why? That's just the word why with an exclamation mark. Why? If we should see these things on the planks of his grown-up namesake, the Grand Guignol, we should have the shudders for a week. What shall we say of a hero who, with no adequate motive, ruthlessly and gleefully destroys his child and his wife, who defies law and divine, clubs to death the representative of the human variety, and at last, after a long run of wrongdoing, extinguishes the devil himself?
Wow.
Which is, roughly speaking, the plot of the story of Mr. Punch.
So can I just, should I list the characters that I remember?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so you got your big dog, Mr. P, Mr. Punch.
That's confusing because there is a dog in the story, but yeah, you won't have seen that because it fell out of popularity by the time we were alive.
I think it was replaced with a crocodile.
A crocodile. They leveled the dog up Pokemon style and it became a crocodile.
Yeah, Mr. Punch, the big guy, the main fella. That's the way to do it? Is that him?
That is his catchphrase. That's the way to do it.
Yes, he did have...
Footnote, none of the things he describes as the way to do it are the way to do it. Please do not do any of the things that way.
He had a wife.
Judy.
Of course.
Her name's in the title of the show.
Punch and Judy. There was a baby.
The baby is called the baby.
The baby is the baby. A policeman.
Yes.
And the aforementioned crocodilio.
Crocodile. Yes. So there's loads of other characters that have come and gone. There's Scaramouche. Or Scaramouche, as in do the fandango.
Can he?
Well... If doing the fandango involves your head extending way up out of the top of your neck, that was Scaramouche's trick. His head was sort of telescopic.
I guess we'll never know if that's what Freddie Mercury meant.
It's a shame we can't ask him. He would be Punch's master or neighbour or landlord, depending on the version of it. There was also a ghost and the devil and a hangman and a whole load of racist characters as well. There would usually be a funny foreigner character who would be called like a Jim Crow sometimes, like the racist parody of a sort of minstrel character, or Shalabala, which was just a general foreign person who only says Shalabala because that's how foreigners sound. I said he started out as an Italian, as so many of us have. The origins of Mr. Punch are Pulcinella from the Commedia dell'arte.
Yes.
And that character is a sort of a horrible servant character with a hump and a huge nose and a paunch. And Mr. Punch retains those characteristics in glove puppet form, although he no longer dresses in black and white like Commedia dell'arte. He's red and yellow like a traditional British jester.
Aye.
It's not just in Britain where you have his sort of relatives. In the Netherlands, they have Jan Pickelherring or John Pickelherring. In Germany, they have Hans Wurst, John Sausage, to translate that into English. So he was brought to the UK by Italian performers. Now, to begin with, it wouldn't have been glove puppets. It would have been marionettes.
Oh, thank goodness. I thought you were going to say actual humans.
Giovanni Piccini is centrally responsible for bringing over the modern Punch and Judy show that we recognise.
Johnny Piccini.
That's translated.
Yeah.
Although later on you'll see him referred to as Porcini because English people will not learn how to pronounce your name.
Because English people are thinking about sausages.
So
actually, it's mushrooms, isn't it? It's blooming mushrooms. I've embarrassed myself there.
I always think it's pigs, but it's not. It's mushrooms.
Mushrooms.
Porcini is a type of mushrooms.
Because we're English. We're always thinking about sausages.
So are the Germans.
Yes, exactly.
Especially John Sausage.
We're very alike, in many ways.
Yeah. In 1662, Samuel Pepys mentions Samuel Pepys, famous diarist.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. It's not actually a funny word, but it sounds like it nearly is. It's got a little bit of diarrhea in there.
Yes.
And if you've read the diary.
Yes.
He did like cheese. In 1662, Samuel Pepys went to see an Italian puppet play, which is very pretty, the best I ever saw. He saw Signor Bologna probably performing a Fantaccini show. A Fantaccini show, which would be like a marionette version of it. And basically nobody writes anything about Punch and Judy for a couple of 100 years after that. That's probably not accurate. Don't correct me if you're listening. But the big hit in terms of recording the folk tradition of Punch and Judy comes in 1827, when John Payne Collier and the illustrator George Cruikshank publish the tragical comedy or comical tragedy of Punch and Judy.
Is the comical tragedy or the tragical comedy?
It is both the comical tragedy or the tragical comedy of Punch and Judy.
Okay,
and I've got a copy of it here. It's the earliest known script for Punch and Judy. I'm going to hand it to you. You might want to have a look at that.
Script?
It's a script for Punch and Judy. And what I like about this is, I don't know if the law folk can see, it's got Victorian adverts for little Punch and Judy shows that you can put on yourself at home. So that's just some ideas for you for Christmas there, James.
Oh, lovely. A marvellous doll.
A marvellous doll. It was so easy to advertise things in those days.
Yes.
You didn't need an angle. Just like a doll.
The dancing skeleton. They have slightly. they've punched up a skeleton.
They have. Listen, I have to say, the company that manufacture these are Gameggs or Jameggs of Holborn. And Bennett Finks of Cheapside.
Yeah, it's a coming together of two companies. Gameggs of Holborn and Bennett Finks of Cheapside. Together at last.
You bring your marvellous doll, I'll bring my dancing skeleton, and we can clean up.
Oh, you can do pet plays. It's a box containing a theatre, stage front scenery, and the figures.
Funny that you mentioned pets, because I mentioned that the Toby dog used to be part of the Punch and Judy show. So we might have seen the crocodile. Some of you, I think, might be too young to have ever actually seen a Punch and Judy show. Before it was a crocodile, it was a real small dog.
What?
That would play around with Mr. Punch on the stage. And that's where the whole story starts, really. The dog bites Mr. Punch on the nose. It's very funny. But Punch is very angry, so he murders the dog's owner.
We've all thought of it.
Nobody likes a bit of neighbour drama, and one of the ways of resolving that is to beat them to death with a slapstick.
How apologetic are they?
Well, he stretched his head out all the way up to the ceiling.
Okay, yeah.
But I'm not sure if that was by way of apology or if that's just
I think that comes across as flexing.
Yeah, it does. It's like, oh, you want to fight? Punch then returns home, where Judy asks him to look after the baby. The baby has a sore tummy, so he whacks it repeatedly on the side of the stage. The children love this.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And then throws it out of the... Well, the quote is, when Judy says, what happened to the baby? Punch says, oh, he's fine, he's somewhere around here. And she says, no, where is the baby? And then Punch says, I threw it at the window. Window is spelt W-I-N-D-E-R. It's winder. You have to say it like that.
Yes.
He goes on, he meets a beadle sometimes, he meets a police officer, he meets all sorts of people, he meets a judge, he meets a doctor, he kills the lot of them.
He's on a spree.
It's a killing spree. He's Britain's first serial killer. He finally meets the devil, and depending on who you ask, he is either killed by the devil, thus ending his murderous reign, or more authentically, he kills the devil.
Oh.
And then the story ends with, huzzah, huzzah, the devil is dead.
Is that good then?
Well, weirdly, it sort of parallels. He's kind of a Clockwork Orange kind of character.
Okay, I thought you were going to say Jesus.
In a way, that's a little bit like Jesus. We brought you here to teach you a few lessons about the Gospels.
Yeah, he's a serial killer who fights the devil. Jesus.
Well, like in the to spoil Clockwork Orange, there are two endings to Clockwork Orange. In the book, Alex grows up and leaves behind all of his violence, and in the film, he isn't cured and he goes back to his violent ways, and he's and so there's two endings to the Mr. Punch story: a more reassuring one where the devil gets him at last, and a much more sinister one where he's like, killed him.
I guess he must be the devil then. He sort of becomes the devil if he's scarier than the devil.
Yeah, like a sort of Stacker Lee character in the folk song Stacker Lee, who also threatens the devil.
Are you saying Stack Alley?
It's Stack Alley, Stagger Lee, and Stacko Lee, same guy. It's like John Pickle Herring, Mr. Punch, same guy.
And what was he, Tommy Sausage?
Yeah, Steve Chips, yeah.
Martin Fishcake.
So if we jump forward to the mid-19th century, a couple of years later, Henry Mayhew was a sort of gonzo journalist of the time. He was a sort of Louis Theroux, but I'm going to say John Ronson because it's an easier accent to do. I can't really do Louis Theroux, and he would go around interviewing.
Why do you think that is?
You being that is
He was trying to be a bit of a Louis Theroux vibe.
Eventually, he published a book called London Labour and the London Poor, where he interviewed poor people so people would find out what that was like. Sidebar, dreadful. It came in the end in 4 volumes. Volume 1 called Volume 1. Volume 2 called Volume 2. Volume 3 called Volume 3.
Brilliant.
And Volume 4 called Those That Will Not Work.
It sounds like you give him a fair chance, but just got to the end of his tether.
Yes, so I think there's a lot of Tories, I think. I think Mr. Punch, obvious Tory. Scaramouche is a landlord, probably a Tory. I think pretty much everyone in this is a Tory.
Is the crocodile a Tory?
Well, the crocodile steals sausages from the sausage patch, so I can only assume that he's an envious lefty who's annoyed at the Punch's hard work that's gone into growing sausages, and he wants them for himself, but he does not want to work.
Sorry, Alasdair, I know you're a vegan.
Yes.
That's not how we get sausages.
Oh, sorry, the version of Mr. Punch I saw, Punch grew sausages in a sausage patch.
Is this your origin story?
Well, I'm Mr. Punch, is that what you're saying?
Have you killed the devil?
Has anyone seen him lately? The greatest devil, forget it. The greatest trick I ever pulled was making people think I hadn't killed the devil. And then we'll take the laugh from when I said forget it.
Yeah.
Put it on the end and it'll look great. There you go. Sorted. Yep. So he describes all sorts of fun tricks. It's a little bit of the Fraternity of Vagabonds, but updated for the 19th century.
Yes, yeah.
The kind of scurrilous tricks that people would get up to. Selling straws is one of them, which is, and I think this still goes on like the dark web. If you wanted to sell something illegal, like drawings of ladies, you know the kind. Have you ever seen one, James?
An illegal drawing of a lady?
Illegal drawing of a lady.
I would not admit to it on a live stream.
No, you absolutely wouldn't.
How can... Okay.
If you wanted to sell an illicit drawing, you couldn't. So what you would do is you would sell a bundle of straws for a vastly inflated price and then give the pornography away as like a free pamphlet that would come with it.
Yes, yeah. I thought you were going to say you would roll it up really tightly and put it inside the straw. And then they have, not only do they have an illicit picture, they've also got a fun puzzle. Because I imagine you'd have to cut it up into quite small pieces to get it into the straws.
I've always thought that users of pornography needed a hobby. And there it is. There was often people would be tricked, though, because it was so illicit. So people would buy bundles of pornography, apparently. You shouldn't be buying porn by weight. Give me a kilo of smutty drawings, please. I've got a busy weekend. No. But they would go away and find that the bundle they had bought did not have any drawings in it. It was just old periodicals.
Just pictures of straws.
Yeah.
Oh, mocking me. That's kind of like, you have you seen the illicit pens?
Yeah.
Do you remember the sexy pens?
Sexy pen, it's a woman who's wearing clothes, but you turn it upside down.
Or
not
a man
so much.
Hey,
I've
there
seen,
were man ones.
I've seen one with a man one, but I don't feel like they were the...
There was less to remove.
Henry Mayhew interviewed a punchman. These days you would call them a professor, but in those days, although many of them do not have a qualification, do not teach at a university.
Yeah, but they've got a threat, I suppose. You call them whatever they want to be called.
They can't really punch you because their hands are covered with puppets. You'll have to excuse me, 1850s was peak writing working class people phonetically time. And so the accent I'm about to do is not my fault because it's how it's written. And the punchman who Henry Mayhew interviewed described it thus. Punch, you may know, sir, is a dramatic performance in 2 acts. It is a play, you might say. I don't think it can be called a tragedy exactly. It is a drama, what we calls it. There is tragic parts and comic and sentimental parts too. Some families where I perform it will have it most sentimental, all in the original style. Them families is generally sentimental themselves. Others is all for the comic, and then I has to kick up all the games I can. To the sentimental folk, I'm obliged to perform it very steady and very slow and leave out all the comic words and business. They won't have no ghost, no coffin, and no devil. And that's what I call spoiling the performance entirely. It's the march of intellect what's doing this, sir.
Is it political correctness?
It's political correctness gone mad.
It's gone mad.
It's gone mad.
It's gone mad at
Intellect. It's the intellectuals like you, James. So the thing that we haven't mentioned yet is that Mr. Punchy has a very distinctive high-pitched voice, which is produced by a little secret device that the punchman keeps in his mouth called a swazzle. And Henry Mayhew, a.k.a. John Ronson...
I think you could get your own. Could you get a vote? In here, it advertises the Vocophone.
The Vocophone?
Subheading, an evening's entertainment in your waistcoat pocket.
I mean, that sounds awful.
Yeah.
That sounds really bad.
You can imitate all brass instruments, rendering good solos. Not great, just good. But I can do that. I don't even need a waistcoat.
The listeners, I have to inform you, James is not actually playing a trumpet.
Yeah.
He's producing those sounds with his mouth. It's like that Winslow guy from...
Yes, from Police Academy.
Police Academy. Henry Mayhew, a.k.a. John Ronson, says, The call, he told me, was tuned to a musical instrument and took a considerable time to learn. He afterwards took from his pocket 2 of the small metallic plates unbound. He said the composition they were made of was also one of the... Sorry, I'm about to transition accents there. Was also one of the secrets of the profession. They were not tin or zinc because both of them metals were poisons in the mouth and injurious to the constitution. These calls, he continued.
Oh, wow. Good effort.
Thank you. We often sell to gentlemen for a sovereign apiece, and for that we give them a receipt how to use them. They ain't whistles but calls, or unknown tongues as we sometimes call them, because with them in the mouth we can pronounce each word as plain as any parson. We have 2 or 3 kinds, one for out of doors, one for indoors, one for speaking and one for singing, and another for selling.
Oh, nice.
So I think a less good quality one that it palms off.
Oh, I thought that was one that like heightened his like marketing skills. Or like it just kind of, it's sort of on the fly like a Babel fish, like increased his SEO. I've noticed a couple of products in here.
Please. We might want to buy some of them.
You know, we said that in those days it was very easy to sell stuff. You didn't need to you didn't need to kind of spice it up. Well, here we've got the toy the child likes best.
Yep.
It's stone building blocks.
Yep.
It's the toy the child likes best.
They're just cubes, is the slogan.
Bricks.
I feel like when it says the child, it's talking about a specific child.
Yeah. Real stone. That don't make any better. It's real stone.
James, that knocks a jointed cloth doll into a cocked hat.
Yeah, it would quite literally, yes. If you smashed it hard enough with your real stone blocks. There's the surprise whistle.
The surprise. The thing is, I can't describe the picture of it. They've drawn it. There's a beautiful etching of a child blowing it directly in a gentleman's face, and he hates it. It's just awful. It's like, is your child the worst? Get the surprise whistle.
I think the blurb as well is written by your guy, because it goes, "You will hear this terrific noise maker. The only perfect dog, bird, or call whistle made. Beats all for hailing streetcars, made in nickel and rubber."
Rubber?
Yeah, I don't know. That must be...
It bounces back. Yeah, nice. Perfect.
Unlike your stone building
when the
blocks.
gentleman slaps it out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Well, you might be saying, James, all right, this is all well and good, but is it spooky? We've only had one devil and a ghost. And I would like to introduce you to a friend of mine and a friend of the show's.
Yes.
Mr. James. M.R. James.
Mr. James.
To give him his full name, Montague Rhodes James, which wasn't his accent, but
No.
it does. He's got. I didn't know what MR stood for, and now I know it's Montague Rhodes. He sounds like a
Montague
cowboy.
Rhodes.
Montague Rhodes. I'm Montague Rhodes James, fastest girl in the West. He was not. That's not his vibe at all.
No.
He was a Cambridge Don. Probably he could probably do like fill a pipe really fast.
Softest whistle in the West.
So there is a connection between all of M.R. James's work, which I think you will agree has been a sort of central pillar of English spookiness,
Yeah.
and Mr. Punch.
What?
And my source for this is the philologist Trevor Hill.
That's someone who knows a lot about fills.
Yes, from Schofield to Uncle. He knows them all. No one calls him Phil Schofield, but he was the only other Phil I could think of. So Trevor Hill wrote an article in 2022 about the connection between Mr. Punch and the writings of M.R. James. And the reason I'm building up to this with so much drama is that article is called "That's the Way to Woo It."
Oh, that is first class. That is
If you're not
lovely.
convinced, don't worry, there's a footnote explaining that joke in the article.
This sounds like one of my tweets.
You do have a very discursive tweeting style. The footnote is, for those readers unfamiliar with the Punch and Judy tradition, this title may be a little puzzling. It's wordplay based on Mr. Punch's catchphrase, "That's the way to do it," and the sound woo, which British native speakers often attribute to ghosts. And this is a fascinating article all about M.R. James, because M.R. James's essential conception of ghosts ties back to Punch and Judy.
What?
In his piece, Ghosts, Treat Them Gently.
Oh.
In Ghosts, Treat Them Gently, 1913, M.R. James says, "What first interested me in ghosts? This I can tell you quite definitely. In my childhood, I chanced to see a toy Punch and Judy set with figures cut out in cardboard. One of these was the ghost. It was a tall figure habited in white, with an unnaturally long and narrow head, also surrounded with white. Upon this, my conceptions of a ghost were based, and for years it permeated my dreams." And in fact, Hypnogoria.com has tried to track down the original paper cutout that he might have seen, if you're interested in seeing cutouts of Mr. Punch and the Ghost.
It sounds like they bought the cheapest set when they probably should have gone. Probably should have gone for the stone one.
It's every child's favourite toy. He wrote a story called The Story of a Disappearance and an Appearance. You didn't need to give stories good names in those days. There were hardly any stories about. And I almost can't read a quote from that because it's quite grim. It's really gruesome. If you want to hear a good version of it, Tony Walker's Classic Ghost Stories podcast has quite a good version of the story in full. But I'm going to read a short section of it, because in that story, a character has a dream of a murderous Mr. Punch on a rampage. "I came to dread the moment of death, the crack of the stick on their skulls, which in the ordinary way delights me. Had here a crushing sound as if the bone was giving way, and the victims quivered and kicked as they lay. The baby, it sounds more ridiculous as I go on, the baby, I'm sure, was alive. Punch wrung its neck, and if the choke or squeak which it gave were not real, I know nothing of reality."
Oh,
Which is
that is
really,
grim.
it's really...
That is pretty grim.
I think it's the goriest and nastiest thing M.R. James has written that I've read. It's really spooked up.
Yeah.
Which leads me quite neatly onto the nastiest part of the Punch story, which I've been skipping over.
Oh.
Which is his encounter with Jack Ketch. the hangman.
Ooh.
So Jack Ketch was Charles II's executioner, and he was famous for making a terrible job.
We do need to point out he was the executioner
who worked for Charles II.
Because
But,
Charles I did have an executioner in that manner.
Great point. So John Ketch was the executioner who worked for Charles II. And he was famous because he absolutely botched Lord Russell's execution with the axe. And so his name has become synonymous with hangmen, executioners, and execution in general. A little bit like, and this, if we could pop for a second into Etymology Corner. Yeah. The long-awaited return of Etymology Corner. Do you know the name of those? I'm miming. Do you know the name of those? Can anyone tell what I'm miming?
Yeah, Nazis?
No. A Nazi who hasn't made his mind up.
Yeah, wavering.
An indecisive. No.
Let's hope for him yet.
Think of what about the I drink your milkshake? Am I helping you at all there?
Oh, yeah. Derek.
Yes, I was miming an oil derrick. Well, this is why we don't normally do this in the podcast. So it's not mostly a mime-based podcast. They're the things that pump oil, the big levery arch things. They go up and down, and they're called oil derricks, which is a weird name. And so I looked that up. They're called that because derrick is an old name for a gallows.
Oh.
And the reason it's an old name for a gallows is that it comes from the name of another famous executioner, Thomas Derrick.
Tommy Derrick.
Well, yeah, but don't get too attached to him. Because if you Google what he did to become an executioner, it's really bad.
Oh, did he start as an amateur? do the open...
Worked his way up to the pro circuit.
Yeah.
Still dropped in occasionally.
He was good, actually. He gave a lot back.
So Thomas Derrick, like Jack Ketch, have been immortalised in the most unpleasant way possible because of their jobs. While we're in Etymology Corner, Mr. Punch is the origin of the phrase, pleased as punch.
He's very happy.
He's so happy with all of his murders. And it's also the origin of the phrase Punch and Judy politics, which has come to mean like, we're both as bad as each other, scoring cheap shots. But actually, if you look at the story, one of them is an insane murderer. Yeah. And the other one is upset because he killed their child.
And is killing them.
It's like classic centrist brain to be like, I find the truth is somewhere in between. I think they're both just as bad as each other. Well, I'm looking at the time there.
Oh.
We need to do the scores.
Oh, yes.
And there's absolutely no way we have time to throw it open to the crowds of hundreds of people.
Yes.
So I think I'm going to have to ask you for a quick fire score round.
Okay, I'll score you.
If that's all right. I'm so sorry to take democracy out of your hands. James, are you ready to score Mr. Punch?
Yes.
My first category for you is names.
Naming.
He's called Punch.
He's called Punch. He does punch.
He punches Jack Ketch. When he says, what's your name? And he says, I'm Jack Ketch. And he says, well, catch this. And he punches him in the stomach.
Oh.
So that's 2 puns.
But Ketch didn't catch people. He dropped them.
Yes, that's the opposite of catching.
Very much the opposite.
We've got swazzles. That's a funny word.
That sounds like a sweet.
We've got.
What does it mean?
It's
not like a pig.
Thing that goes in the mouth to do the mid-to-punctifive.
I thought it was like the what was the other one about the bull? Swizzle stick.
Pizzle.
I thought a swazzle was like a pig's.
No.
Oh, good. As I say, always thinking about sausages.
We've got Scaramouche.
Yes.
John Sausage and John Pickle Herring.
John Sausage. Love the names.
And Charles Hall Grandgent.
And Mr. James.
And Montague Rhodes James.
4 out of 5.
Okay. Well, I don't know what else I could have done there. But I don't have time
ruder names, I think.
Ruder names.
Yeah, probably ruder.
Okay.
Just a hint or tip.
I feel like I didn't get anything at all for that's the way to woo it.
Oh, yeah, wait a minute. That is technically a name.
Yeah.
That's 5.
Yes.
Is that going to go in Supernatural as well?
Well, my second category is Supernatural. I can see that there's no real ghosts in it, but you have to admit, it's uncanny, isn't it?
And it inspired Christmas ghosts.
Yeah, absolutely. So much spooky creepiness.
I'm going to go low, though.
Hold on, well, I've got a quote to pitch you. So Jane Marie Law has this to say about why puppets are spooky. And I'm quoting from Hill's article.
Is the quote, look at them?
In essence, yes. Puppets, which exist in the shape of the human are not simply metaphors for the human, but actually comprise a world of their own. A parallel world bridging the domain of the human and the divine. The puppet, as an intersection of these two worlds, is powerful and frightening, eliciting both fear and fascination. They have the capacity to draw sacred forces and can become vessels in which the sacred comes to dwell. Furthermore, they can embody the souls of human beings, both living and dead. So my question to you, James, is you can give this a low score, but are you prepared to take the risk of upsetting Mr. Punch?
Oh, yeah. They are creepy. And he's got that sort of half, man in the moon face. I'm going to go 4.
4, okay.
Again.
I'll take, considering there were no actual ghosts.
I've been swizzled.
My next category is quite a character. Which is the nicest way you could describe Mr. Punch, but lots of the other people were quite a character.
Quite a character.
I think Trevor Hill must be quite a character to give his article such an amusing name.
But so well explained.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't want to lose anyone.
He's quite the character. Some of the characters were abhorrent, but they're still characters. So it's 5. 5 for quite a character.
A
lot of characters.
And a final category is you can't let the bairns watch that.
But we literally sit children in front of it.
Yeah, we do.
I've only watched it as a child.
There's a wonderful... It did used to be for adults, and it became for children, but without them really changing it enough.
How was it for adults?
If you look on YouTube, there's not that many Punch and Judy shows available, but you can find a Pathé News one from the early 20th century, and the description is like, children from all over enjoying Punch and Judy. But then if you watch the children's faces, they are hating it. Like, there's just long close-ups of children crying. Child after child is going, what am I seeing?
The voice was terrifying. That really...
Might drop in a little recording from...
the past.
From a public domain film of Punch forcing kisses upon Judy. That's not good.
What was the category again?
You cannot show that to the bairns.
Can you show that to the bairns? But we do. And it's exclusively the audience now. So I'm just going to have to go 3.
What?
It's middle. Because you shouldn't.
But we do.
But you do.
What a low-key ending.
Well.
For a line. Oh, wait.
Don't you worry. Because for the very cheap price of 10D with 2D postage, pets, transfers, and scraps. I don't know, is that like a pet swapping system? And you might end up with just bits of pets? Oh, sorry, the price I quoted was the standard size. You can get larger, which is the price of 1/10. I don't know how they counted in the past.
That is a shilling tenpence is what that is. We all know.
Do we?
Yeah, we all know what. Yeah, everyone is nodding.
All 10,000.
Thank you so much for coming to Loremen Live here at Cheerful Earful Comedy Podcast Festival.
Thank you very much. On next week. Thanks, everyone. You know what? If you want to do an entertaining and educational podcast, Alasdair, that's the way to do it.
Oh, I didn't even notice. You slipped it past me. Well done. If you want more bonus extra things related to this podcast, I believe there's a Patreon. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's at patreon.com/LoremenPod.
And would there be another live show coming up on Halloween itself?
100% yes. If you listened to that and thought, I could do a better job than that audience, prove it. Put your money where your mouth is.
Come to the Bill Murray on the 31st of October.
2022.
Not for a fight, for a podcast.
It's the night before All Saints, and all through the house, everyone was spooky. Even the mouse.
Even the spooky mouse.
Spooky little mouse in a tiny little handkerchief.
The mouse is he's wearing a handkerchief like a ghost's outfit.
Like a sheet, because that would be the equivalent of a sheet for a mouse.
That's adorable. I don't think that's spooky at all.